How are you, my friend?
Things are beauty, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
lovely morning.
Yeah, it is.
Sun is shining on the righteous.
It is, yeah, it is. And it's not too bright because, well, welcome everyone. You know where we are. You know who this man is. Would it surprise you if I said we had a little glass of sherry? It wasn't sherry, was it, last night?
Oh, no, mate, it comes from a bit stronger than that. Come out of a sherry cask, probably, when it was being distilled and matured, but a nice drop of whiskey.
It was.
From up, a good friend of mine, Mick Anderson, sent it down from a distillery in Wick. It was lovely, wasn't it?
It was very nice. It was very nice. I'm not sure one glass was enough, but we're not going to go there today, no. And we are fighting fit. We are, of course, with the wonderful Mr. Keith Ferry. We've got another really good show lined up for you today. As always, when we visit Keith, you know, it's the little things. I came down last night. We've talked birds a lot, and Keith's done some things already, and and I've gone, wow, that's really quite good. So we'll catch all of those today. So listen, everyone, you know what to do. Grab yourself a cuppa, and as always, sit back and enjoy the show. Well, mate, it's not that long since I've seen you, is it? It was Beaumaris. Beaumaris show, and a show which you did, very well in. Best Norwich, second best Norwich, second best Canary.
Yeah, yes, yeah, second best Canary, best unflighted, best opposite sex. So yeah, 8 birds, 8 winners.
Not a bad return, and again another good season for you on the show bench. Started, I think, with Hinckley and Burbage. Was that your first show?
Yes, it was nice to see Hinckley and Burbage is back on the map and support them. I mean, in my younger days when I was novice, that was the hotbed, Hinckley and Burbage, and to even get a class winner up there was an honour because there was a lot of competition in them days. But no, I'm well pleased that Hinckley and Burbage is back on the road, and we sent a nice team up there and finished up on best Norwich and best birding show.
Very good, but not content with that. I mean, you were judging the Southern,
yeah.
You won Midland.
The Midlands, yeah.
The NPC as well.
Yeah.
So another good show season for you.
It was. Well, there weren't so many shows this season. Entry just said I judged one of them. I didn't go to the National because we was away that weekend. No, every show I went to, best Norwich, so can't fault that. No,
can't indeed. And some lovely birds, and we got some pictures of the birds winning, and you with a big smiling face and happy, which is always lovely to see. But there's absolutely no complacency, is there? So, you know, you're going again this year. We've got the birds, we've got a couple of shots here of the bird room, the cages, pretty much everything is in the flights now, isn't it?
Well, it is, yeah. I mean, this is the period, time of the year when you want your birds in the flights. Well, for me, anyway. I'm never in too much of a hurry to get the birds down. The birds will tell me when they're ready. But this is the time of the year, especially when it's cold outside. You don't want to be outside. Is to get your breeding cages up to scratch, cleaned out. Any remedials, any painting, anything to do. This is the time. And I'm in that stage at the moment.
Yeah, so it is. It's. I think it's probably the first time I've been in your room when all of the cages are empty. I say all of the cages, not quite all of the cages, because, well, Mr. Ferry, I'd like to think you've been influenced by the Canary room.
Well, I have.
In some way, because, ladies and gentlemen, not content, and you know, a stunning, you know, there's a lot of hard work. Me and Keith have plenty of fun, plenty of laugh. There's a lot of hard work that's gone in to putting these Norwiches down and together, and to, you know, creating birds as close to the standard as possible. But not content with that, there's something new in Mr. Ferry's room. So we'll have a little look at that, and you can tell us all about it right now. So, we've mentioned this. You might be able to see in the cage behind us. There's a native bullfinch hen.
Yes. It's something I've always fancied doing, and it's going to give me a little bit more enthusiasm and interest this coming breeding season. Something to get out of bed and think, well, what are that pair doing? Hopefully going to nest and laying eggs, and there might be some fertile eggs. But lovely, stunning bullfinch hen, a yellow, really deep in colour. And I've put a crossbred Norwich Canary, one of my feeders, which I'd bred out of a clear buff cock last year to one of my crossbred feeders. And the pair are getting on well. She's nice and steady. There's no fighting, no bickering. He's singing his head off, as you can see. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, he's a stunner. When Keith first sent me a video, I looked at it and I thought, that's a really nice Norwich cockbird you've got with that hen. And then when I came in and I looked at it and I thought, that looks really nice. And he went, yeah, it's one of my crossbred birds. And I'm thinking, it looks a lot a lot of Norwich in it, isn't there?
Well, there is. I mean, it's lacking head, obviously, or one thing or another. But what I like out this pair, that cockbird being a crossbred, he's got more vigour. He's got more. And if the Canary's going to do his duty there, it'll be this bird, I think, rather than I ain't going to say a sluggish Norwich, but as everybody knows, the Norwich are difficult, especially the hybrid Norwich.
Yeah.
If she calls tread, he'll be on her.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Where a Norwich cock may think about it. Especially these young cocks, well, like young boys, you know, they just think they know how to do it, but they don't. But he certainly will.
Yeah. No, he is. He's belting out, and like you say, she's lovely and steady, incredible colour on her. They're in a double breeder at the moment, but that's not the plan, is it? The plan is to move them into the flight cage.
They've told me this is the time of the year that bullfinches will pair and bond up. They won't go to nest this time of the year, but they will bond up with their birds. So hopefully that's going to happen. And she's in a double breeder. I thought for her to steady her down, but she don't need no steadying down. She's quite a nice, tame bullfinch. And a good friend of mine had sent it down. Mike Anderson from Scotland, he'd picked them up from Stacey Turner. Stacey had got these birds. And I can't fault it. Lovely bird. But it will be going into one of my flights. One of the smaller flights with a divider in. And with a bit of camouflage in there, a couple of nesting sites for her. And I say it's a new interest for me, and I'll see how things go.
And we know what's going to happen, everyone, don't we? You know, Canary bully, I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful mule pair. Yeah. We know what's going to happen, don't we? You know, this man will just breed half a dozen of them, and we'll be coming back later on, and we'll be like, how have you done that? How have you done that? And it's all down to the husbandry. You mentioned the camouflage, and I noticed them last time we were here. But the flights are decorated now, aren't they? With what are these overhanging plants?
They're a succulent plant with a creeper, and they're quite easy to maintain and grow. Don't take a lot of looking after, but I've got them on top of my flights, and they're cascading down the sides of the... one of the main reasons I had them in here, and another novice guy who comes and sees me now, Darren Ashpole, he was saying that his bird room's full of plants and that, and for the summer of breeding, it keeps the moisture in the air. These plants do. You water in them, the moisture is in the air. So I thought, oh, that's a damn good idea. So hence I've got them. Because we all know, and I've said in the past, this bird room can be very, very dry. We know the humidity in the UK is fairly high, but for some reason this bird room is dry. Hence me having the humidifier, not dehumidifier, humidifier through the summer months. And these plants are going to hopefully help to keep the moisture content at the right percentage.
Yeah. Very good. And they look pretty too. And they're going to provide a bit of cover as well for the bully hen.
Well, hopefully, yes.
Over there.
Yes. So, yeah, it's all natural rather than, buy this plastic stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, feels like we might come back and see how Keith gets on with the bully pair. And you've got it on. You've got a bit of apple in there. You've got a little bit of mix, sort of bullfinch mix, which the canary cock's enjoying.
Yes,
yeah.
And also she's having. I did collect a load of horocantha berries. They love them, and so does the canary.
Right.
So they're eating them. I mean, this time of the year, the bully, I've gave her some mealworms. She won't touch them, but I have been told when she is laying and hopefully hatching youngsters, she will take mealworms and live food. So we'll see. Whether I let her feed, if she lays the eggs, if there's any fertile in it, I think I've got to guarantee I'm under a feeder. It's a new experience for me. Matt's got a lot of faith in me. I'm reading something. Even a fertile egg will be something. We'll have to see when it comes to it.
I've got lots of faith, lots and lots of faith. Super. Well, we've just seen one of the feeders with the bully hen, and the crossbraids, and you're producing a very nice looking crossbreeded feeder, aren't you, mate? It's not. There's no. I mean, technically there are a variety of different birds, but they're nice looking birds.
Well, they're made up. The first lot that came, a good friend of mine from Ireland, Paul Martin, sent me some over, which he'd been crossing them with Norwich and dimorphics, new colours. And they were a stunning bird. Now, I've put more Norwich into them last year. Quite a nice, short, clear buff cock with two ends, and all his youngsters are in that flight now. So the size has gone up even a notch again. But they're all clear birds. And also what I found, having them from Paul, that they were throwing pink eyes as well. So there's a bit of cinnamon in them, but clear birds. So this year a good friend of mine has let me have one of his grey wings, the cockbird, so I'm going to put a bit of darkness into the birds this year. Another friend, Darren Ashbowes, gave me a lizard cock, a gold lizard cock, so that's going into them. And I've been privileged with another present from Matt with another grey wing cock is brought down this weekend. So they're going to have a bit of a mixture this coming year.
Just to keep that sort of that vigour and
yeah.
We've said before on the show, for the Norwich it's about guaranteeing that first round, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that sets the tone for the season. So but they are. I'm fascinated. First thing I did when I came in, I spotted the lizard in there, and I was like, there's a lizard in here as well, Keith. So good stuff with them. We'll see how they get on. And then in terms of the birds, we've got the cocks and hens, Norwich cocks and hens, Fifes. They're together, aren't they? So you've got buff cocks, yellow hens, and buff hens, yellow cockbirds in the flight cages together.
Yeah.
And the flights are sort of opened up in terms of the size. And the birds look fit. One of the things that was fascinating today actually was you've got some spinach in there for them.
Yes.
So they're enjoying some spinach. And it's the little things, everyone. So normally I put a handful of spinach in, wash it, put a handful in, and they'll bathe in it, and then it goes into the sawdust and everything else, and it goes a little bit manky early on. Of course, this man doesn't do that. This man puts them in his plastic trays that he also uses baths.
That's it, yeah. What I find that, like Matt said, once you throw any wash greens, it can be curly cow, broccoli, etc. It soon dries up with the moisture sucked out through the sawdust or shavings or whatever you do. I'm found that put them into the bars, these plastic dishes, keeps it fresh through the day, and it doesn't scatter all over the floor. It stays in there, and they'll clear it all up. So that's another little thing.
Another little thing. When you say it, of course, because the floor covering we use is an absorbent, so of course it's going to take the moisture out of things. Of course it's going to do that. Did I think about that before I came in here today and saw Keith do it in there? No, I didn't. Did you think about it? Some of you will have done, some of you won't have done. If you haven't, there's another tip from this man who frankly, every time I come in here, I learn something new, and I hope you do too. So we mentioned a couple of minutes ago, Keith, we've got, in the flight behind, we've got yellowcocks, buff hens, and they're all together.
Well, that's right. Yeah, unflighted, flighted, cocks and hens, yellow cocks, buff hen, even a white, couple of whites, so birds get used to white. Some fanciers will say, I didn't put cocks all together this time of year, they'll kill each other. There is, when you put your cocks in all together like that, there will be some fighting. But I've never lost a bird through that. There's 24 hours, 48 hours, the pecking order comes in place and they get on well. And you can't beat a nice flight to get these birds fit. Yeah. But I'm not overfeeding them this time of the year to get them fit, but there's plenty of time to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I asked Keith before, he said he was putting in the bowls, and I said, oh, what's in those bowls? Thinking, it was some kind of magic potion. This is, I'm supposed to know stuff about canaries. I was like, what have you got in those bowls? Keith turned round to me and said,
plain canary. You don't know the difference between bloody plain canary and super fit.
I thought it was going to be that. I thought it's some kind of secret. He's got some kind of magic mix in there. It was plain canary, but I think that's important, isn't it? Because one of the things, certainly with the Norwich, because they're a heavily feathered bird, you've got to keep that eye on them. You don't want them getting over fat and clogged.
Yeah, I mean, there's one or two hens in here. There's specifically a yellow hen there, a variegated yellow hen, who's quite fat around the vent, and you want to knock that off prior to breeding. This is where you could finish up getting egg binding. Now we'll take that hen out later, and I'll blow it up and I'll show you exactly what fat means. I don't mind a bit of fat on the birds this time of year when it's cold. There's no heat in here, is there? No heat at all. So they want a bit of meat on them and a bit of fat on them this time of the year. But in the next 6 to 8 weeks, they'll knock that off by this flight.
Yeah.
I would say in probably 4 weeks' time, I'll take these cocks out and they'll go into the double breeders because they will be kitten fitter. That'll be the time. You'll soon see when all these cocks are singing their heads off, it's time to put them on their own. And then the hens will start flying from one end to the other. That's the exercise, that's where they'll knock that fat off them. And no good pairing birds up when you blow them up and you see all that yellowy fat around their belly and around their vent, because you're asking for trouble. You could get egg binding from that.
Yeah, and the sort of year in, year out, it's that sort of practice, isn't it, of going through, being absolutely focused on getting these birds fit, making sure that they've got the right diet. You're not just loading them with stuff straight away. I think a lot of mistakes that people make, and I include myself in this sometimes, is we get a bit overexcited. We see stuff happening on Facebook, and we almost sort of think, oh my God, I've got to give them this and I've got to give them that. And actually what's important, and what I've reminded myself of this year, and it's from the conversations I have with you, is look, it's about a steady conditioning process. It's about finding the method that works for you. It's about sticking to that method. And it's about, knowing what you're putting in the birds. We've had conversations before on the channel and off air about, the temptation of, this thing and that thing, and give them this and give them that. And I've probably fallen into it again this year a little bit. But it is about doing things gradually?
Well, I've said in the past that many years ago I experienced this. Boy, you listen to different fanciers and they believe in this certain feed. You talk to another fancier and they believe in something, and you get it in your head. You think, oh, I'll try that and I'll try that, and you finish up mixing a deadly cocktail. And one year I done that, and I was adding spirulina. Anybody who's using spirulina, which is 90% protein, be very, very careful, because this can blow your birds to bits. It can blow the liver to bits. Too much. You've got to look at what protein you're going to give your birds, right? You can bring it up for the breeding, and when they are in breeding condition and they're laying, bring the protein up, but don't overdo it, because it's asking for trouble.
And as part of the preparation for the breeding season, you'll be doing a clear out of the birds, so you'll run some doxy through them.
Yeah, doxycycline 20%. Good friend of mine here has got me some from America. I didn't realise that. I was surprised this morning, so it's come in just right. Not a big believer in all these bloody drugs. Talking to a friend of mine I've made in the Far East, he likes all natural stuff, with different types of seeds and one thing or another, which I think is probably a good idea. I'm going to look more into that. These drugs we keep putting into birds, but doxycycline I've used for the last couple of years to clean them out. And the main reason is, you hear of this black spot, which is a bacteria within the gut, and you can see the parent is passed it on into the egg, and when they hatch, you'll see that youngster with a black spot in there. That's what you're trying to avoid. There's nothing worse than spending all your time getting these birds into breeding condition, and they're laying the eggs, and they've got the fertile eggs, they finally got black spot. Touch wood, I haven't seen it for 2 or 3 years. I've had it, and I think all fanciers have had it, and the fanciers have had it and don't know what they're looking at.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's something what has appeared over the years within the Canary world, hence most breeders give them something to clear them out.
Yeah.
But you must do it at least 6 weeks before breeding.
Yeah.
So it gets out their system.
Yeah. And you were mentioning before as well that you'll use a distilled water to mix it in.
Again, a good friend of mine gave me this advice, is that when you're giving any drugs, you don't want to be putting grits and stuff like that, any minerals they can pick up, which counteract against the drug. So the best thing to mix your drugs in is distilled water, deionizing water, which is being cleared of any material, minerals and that in the water, and fresh every morning. And the other thing I was saying to Matt was, if you do decide to clear them out with any type of drug, is take the waters off in the evening. So you have no drink in the evening, and in the morning you give them it fresh, every morning fresh. And you'll notice that every bird takes, they gulp it down, so that they're going to get it into their system.
Yeah, and I got quite terrified before, everyone. I don't mind sharing this with you. Margaret came in, and she was talking about breakfast, and it was a lovely breakfast we've had, as it always is in the Ferry household. But she came in with a pack of Yakult and suggested that was our breakfast, but it's actually for the birds, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Yakult, which we can show you. We'll do a little clip of it. It's cheap as muck, and that's a probiotic. And once you gave your course of drugs to your birds, they need to have a course of probiotics to get that fighting into their gut again. So that's a cheap way of doing it. You're into the egg food, mix it into the egg food. That's what you're going to moisten it with. Neat. Bottle of that into the egg food. But you can get different types of probiotics you can put in the water as well. But yeah, that's what that's for.
Yeah, see, I thought it was for me. I was getting a little bit anxious, to be honest. It's that time of year again. The plans for the 2023 breeding season.
Yeah.
We talked before about the Fifes. There's some really nice Fifes. You did well again on the bench with the Fifes in some big classes last year. You've got this block just in front of us.
Yeah.
That you've got the idea of sort of 5 cockbirds and hens either side of them. So and maybe another
trio.
Another trio over there.
Yeah, maybe. It's I'm definitely going to cut down on the 5. I do enjoy breeding them, but then I ain't got a name for pipe, and so I don't get rid of 5 as easy as I do my Norwich.
Yeah.
But I do like to breed them, so I'm going to cut down on and keep the very best and keep improving my stock on them.
Yeah.
And so 5 good cocks, 10 good hens.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said last year that I'm going to cut down, but I'm saying that I've still got the same amount of Norwich. So you get to a stage where you think, well, I don't know whether I would let that go. But it could well be 16 cocks, 16 hens of the Norwich.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe a couple of spares just in case. But I mean, they are. It's difficult, isn't it? I know I've cut down with the Fifes this year, and it hasn't been easy to do. You know, when you've got a stud of Norwich like you've got, that sort of that. It only takes, and we both know this. It takes a bad season, and you can be in a real difficult position. So you've got to keep that balance of unflighted birds. So if something, for God, hope not, but if something does go wrong, you're okay for the following year. But
I've said in the past that I like to keep young stock. You've got to keep 1 or 2 flighted birds, but I like to keep young stock. I mean, it's obvious that your young birds you bred last year, you're going to breed this year. When it comes to showing, you've got your flighted birds for showing. So majority of my birds are last year's bred. Keep that young stock. It's like you said, if for some reason it doesn't click, if something goes wrong in your bird room and you don't breed anything, you're down the pan if you keep all flighted birds. So that's another reason for
and it must be difficult, and it's a nice problem to have, Keith. But it must be difficult when you've got the quality of Norwich that you've got, that sort of that final selection and that sort of discipline, because I'd find a reason to keep everything, to be fair, but you're. I guess the reason that you're really successful with them is you've got that. There's a ruthlessness to it, isn't there?
Well, there is, and I mean, even myself can ponder over a bird going. I think, should I keep it, should I not, etc. But what I find in my mental state is that once that bird is out your shed, you forgot it.
Yeah.
You just forgot that bird. And you concentrate on what's left in your bird room.
Yeah.
So that's what you got to think. You can't keep them all.
No.
But last year, I put 140 rings on birds. That's that's the amount of birds I bred last year. And for me, at my age, you only get out of it what you put in it. And if you're going to be successful, you've got to put the hours into it. But I did put a lot of hours in last year. People will say, I've got a good line, got a good stud, and you're going to breed good birds. You've got to have that good line, but you've got to put that time in it to make sure everything goes right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I sometimes feel sorry for my wife because I can spend most of my time up here and poor old girl's down there, on her own. So I did promise I would cut right down, but I'm here again with the same amount of bloody birds.
Let's hope she doesn't watch this bit of the episode, mate? Let's hope she doesn't watch that. But I think you talk about putting the hard yards in, and that is the thing, isn't it? It's a daily, consistent approach to things that you've got to do. I mean, we caught you on film before on the brush, Mr. Ferry sweeping up round his room, and of course Mr. Ferry doesn't just sweep like anybody. Mr. Ferry's learnt how to sweep, and this goes back to your apprenticeship.
It does, yeah. I mean, I was 15 when I first started work, two weeks before my 16th birthday. No, I beg your pardon, I was 14 when I left school, and I started work 2 weeks before I was 15. And in them 2 weeks, they taught me how to brush the joinery shop up without creating a dust. So that was the first job to do and perfect sweeping up and clearing up after the mess you made.
Tell you, I watched him. It was like, well, I caught it on film. You can have a look at it now. It's like Torvill and Dean on a brush. The grace of the man. Have to be careful on this because the sun's bouncing off my head, and this actually beautiful morning sun here, and the birds are having a little bathe in it and enjoying it, aren't they? And from the Norwich perspective, you mentioned before you've got a couple of whites in the flights, which we know is a work in progress, and the dark birds are a work in progress. But I can see in this flight here, there's a couple of variegated and quite darker birds, and there's a couple of darker birds in here as well. So that's continuing.
Yeah, I mean, for the last couple of years, I've not done that well with the greens. So there is a pair of greens in there. Hopefully we'll do better this year and breed 1 or 2 greens. But the variegated ones, there's a father and son in there, 2 yellow cock birds, heavy variegated. And they will go with clear birds, and they was bred from clear birds as well, variegated clear. So I know those variegated birds will throw some clear birds. But the thoughts there is that variegation is going to keep that colour into your birds.
Yeah.
You got to have some of these darker birds, but not too many, because if you breed all dark birds, it'll go through your line, and you'll finish up with a shed full of dark birds. I do like my clears, but I do find breeding a clear out of a variegated bird, you'll get that depth of colour.
Yeah.
The last thing you want, especially in yellow cock birds, a clear yellow cock bird with a lot of frosting on it, they're no good for showing. You've got to have depth of colour.
Yeah. And so that dip in the green.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, dip of green, and it keeps that depth of colour in your yellows and your buffs. So,
well, as always, mate, it's a pleasure to be here. It's the show has become, the first time I came to Keith, I think we've done 8 or 9 of these now.
We've done, I think he's got a soft spot for me.
I have. And you know, what happens now is I kind of bring the camera and think, well, we'll do a show, because everyone likes to see Keith's. Everyone likes to hear what this man's got to say.
Well, hopefully.
But we'll just have a few beers and enjoy ourselves, and that's what we've done. And so the purpose of the trip wasn't to do the show, but we've done a show. The purpose of the trip was to come and see you, and we bought some egg food up, didn't we, from Shane, and some bits and bobs and of that as well. Yeah. So, well, I think it's fair to say, mate, if invited, obviously, we might come and check up at different times of the season, if that's okay.
You're more than welcome, and if there's anything else I, develop on or think I can pass on to fanciers, and fanciers take it on board and appreciate it, it gives me pleasure.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to do is take some of my tips and that to the bloody grave. I want to pass it on to fellow fanciers.
Yeah. And that there, encapsulated in one sentence, is why we love this man so much. Keith, as always, it's a pleasure. Thank you once again for your stunning hospitality. And my head feels quite good this morning, which is unusual for us.
Well, mine does now after the paracetamol.
Oh, dearie me. Well, listen, everyone, thanks very much for watching. If you haven't, subscribe to the channel. Until next time, take care.
Yeah, take care, everybody, and I wish everybody a real good breeding season. And breed some of those winning birds, mate.
Super stuff.